Why do you seek the cup of Christ?
I didn't come for the cup of Christ. I came to find my father.
When it came time to doing Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, George Lucas wanted Indiana Jones to go after the Holy Grail. And I didn't think that was a very exciting MacGuffin. I thought it was static and it was a cup and it would just sit there. And George said, well, you know, we can do something paranormal about it. We can, hey, why don't we say that if you drink from the cup, you have everlasting life? It's like the fountain of youth. And I said, yeah, that's okay, George, but it's still just going to sit there. But what I brought to the table was, I said, you know, the Holy Grail is also a metaphor, you know, and I think the Holy Grail could be a metaphor for bringing together Indiana Jones and his dad. Why don't we make it a father-son story? And it's the father who is the Grail expert, who had devoted his entire life in search of the Grail. And he gets kidnapped, and then Indy has to look for his father. And in searching for the truth, in searching for the father, you know, he closes the estrangement. So I really brought that into the story as a kind of parallel story between the father and the son and the quest for the Holy Grail. And George said, okay, fine, let's do that. And that's what we did.
Then Steven kind of sort of got into the idea of the father, and he came up with the idea of Sean Connery. And I said, oh, Sean Connery, for God's sake, that's, you know, everybody's going to think he's James Bond, and it's going to ruin everything. And you know, we want somebody, you know, a character actor to play that part. And he says, no, you forget. This thing started with, and the character came out of a love of James Bond. So James Bond really is Indiana Jones's father. And I said, well, okay, I guess you're right. But I was afraid that Sean wouldn't cooperate with being the old father who can't do anything, the librarian, because it's very much against his image. And when I saw those guys together, you know, Sean just took that role and made it better than it could have possibly been. And he was very funny.
Dad! Oh, Dad! Oh, Dad! What? Head for the fireplace! Oh.
Sean was only playing older to be his father. In fact, they're closer to age than most people realize. And we had a lot of laughs behind the scenes about that. But I just thought that this relationship would be successful if I could get Harrison to call his father sir, and at one point in the movie say, yes, sir. And that was going to define the rest of the relationship. There was the pecking order. And in that first scene, when Harrison gets knocked over the head by that vase and falls to the ground and leaps to his feet, almost standing at attention.
Yes, sir.
That was, for me, the beginning of a beautiful friendship and a beautiful relationship with a lot of abyss to be closed.
Jesus Christ.
That's for blasphemy.
The father still has all the authority. And it worked beautifully, because it could have very easily been the, you know, Indiana Jones sort of overrunning the part and being the big tough guy, and the father being weak. And because of the nature of Sean Connery, it had a beautiful balance.
Junior, you did it.
Junior!
Junior?
It is you, Junior. Don't call me that, please.
But the father only refers to his son as Junior and never calls him by name. And I wanted at the very, very end of the movie somewhere for the father to turn and say to the son, Indiana. And I wanted that to be where the son had to make the choice between losing his life or recovering the Grail. And this father uses the word Indiana, the name Indiana, to get Indy's attention off the Grail and back into eye contact with the dad.
I can almost reach it, Dad. Indiana?
And then he says to his son, he says to his son, you know, give it up.
Let it go.
You know, life is more important. You know, this relationship is more important. And then Indy gives the father his other hand. And those were the two big measurements, I think, that came before a lot of the story. That was just, those were big brush strokes to kind of figure out, okay, if we've got yes, sir at the beginning, and we've got that at the end, how do we fill in the middle?
The relationship between Indy and his father had a real powerful impact on the movies, because Before there was character, but it was mostly action driven. And the fact that we could do one which is essentially a character piece with some action in it surprised people.
I thought I'd lost you, boy. I thought you had to, sir.
I remember actually going into a couple of theaters opening weekend and hearing the audience laughing. I think it was, in a way, it was the funniest of the three. It got many more laughs than Raiders of the Lost Ark got. And of course, many more laughs than Temple of Doom, which didn't get that many laughs at all. But I thought in terms of audience participation, the most successful of the three movies, if you just listen to the audience, laugh and clap in certain places as the movie, went along, was The Last Crusade.